Good morning. I was a rower in college. Not the small person who steers the boat and motivates the crew, one of the bigger people in the middle of the boat who keeps it moving. I wanted to take this picture out, but my colleague convinced me that a picture of me wearing Lycra from 20 years ago was a good idea. So there it is. So fast forward to 2003, and I found myself in the New York City Parks Department trying to convince the head of parks that it would be a good idea to bring girls from low-income communities who couldn't swim and didn't know how to row and put them in small, narrow boats on a lake in her park. She looked at me like I had 6 eyeballs and said, "This is the worst idea I've ever heard." Somehow I convinced her to get to a yes. How? Well, it all started in 2002 when I was in graduate school studying education, and I found myself needing a part-time job. I got one working at Community Rowing in Boston, where they had just started an outreach program for girls. Their vision was to bring the sport of rowing to low-income girls from Boston. I thought, well, that's the perfect marriage for me. I'd been a collegiate rower, and I really wanted to work with girls from low-income communities. I adored working with teenagers, and I still do. That year with those girls taught me so much. They learned to swim with me. They learned how to row a boat, how to race. We worked on homework together. We celebrated their birthdays together. And that spring, we took them to the Mother's Day Regatta. Not the national championships, the Mother's Day Regatta on the Charles River. I launched them from the dock, and this was the first time they'd ever been more than 10 feet away from me as a group. And I sort of gave them a wave, and I said, "You've got this, girls, you can do it." And my heart was pounding, and all I could think was, I really just hope they make it to the finish line and I see them again. But it was like a parent sort of sending them off. I said, "Okay, girls, you can do this." And I watched and watched, and I finally saw the race coming down. And not only were they coming down the race course, they were in first place. And they stayed in first place, and they stayed in first place, and I was screaming and yelling, and they came across the finish line still in first place, and they rowed back to the dock, and their moms and their sisters and their cousins, because of course they all brought 20 or 30 people with them to this Mother's Day Regatta. We all raced down to the dock, and we caught them, and they were sobbing, and I was sobbing, and their moms were sobbing, and their sisters were sobbing, and we were sobbing because we were so happy. This was so much more than winning a race for these girls, and for me, I felt so privileged to be a part of that experience for them. This was about doing something they never thought they were capable of. This was about them believing in themselves. This was about hard work. This was about believing in me, believing in themselves, and probably most importantly, believing in one another. So that's what brought me to the Parks Department, fast forward a few years, asking the parks official if I could, in fact, start this program. This is a photo of me that's also embarrassing. There's a theme here. Of our first race in Philadelphia, where we had a borrowed boat that didn't even have a bow number. So we had to hand draw that and then type it onto the boat. And so there we have it. So I started Row New York with a very modest beginning, no money, nowhere to row, no equipment, et cetera. But fast forward 15 years later, and now we have 3 locations in New York City, 250 girls and boys in our after-school program, and close to 5,000 kids involved in all of our programs across New York City. So that's programs for incarcerated youth, summer day camps, in-school programs, and programs for young people with physical and cognitive disabilities. I'm going to talk mostly about the kids in our after-school program. Those are our 250 kids, boys and girls, 7th through 12th graders. And sort of what makes us different? A few things. One is we believe in the value of socioeconomic diversity. So our kids, while 80% of them come from low-income backgrounds, about 20% of our kids come from more affluent backgrounds, and their parents pay for them to participate in our program. And as a result, we have kids from very different backgrounds working together in a very authentic way. So they're rowing together, they're swimming together, they're doing homework together, visiting schools as a group, and most importantly, racing together. They're all in the same boat. And we see value in both directions. Second, we believe in the value of high dosage. So Row New York is a very intensive program. Our boys and girls are with us 6 days a week. They're either doing homework with us, Regents prep, SAT prep. They're working with their tutors or doing yoga, or, of course, rowing. Saturdays usually culminate in a race, either an indoor regatta, because it is the Northeast, or March through October, an outdoor regatta mostly throughout the Northeast. So last but not least, rowing is very hard. Anyone know any rowers in the room? Yeah, so you've probably heard them complain for years and years. It's very hard, and I really think that if you want to teach someone or show someone how strong they are, a young person, you can talk to them all day long about how valuable they are and how strong they are and how capable they are, but if you ask them to do something very difficult, and they put that time in and they effort in and they take that risk and then they do that thing, you don't need to tell them that they're strong and capable. They know it because they've done it, right? And that's what rowing is about. You're out there in the cold, you're out there in the rain, your hands are getting a little bit ripped up, your muscles ache, you're doing something that is very, very difficult, and you're doing it with 8 other people in a boat. So you have to be a good team member, right? So where does this lead us? It leads us to a lot of good things. College success to begin with. 92% of Row New York's graduates are either in college or are on track to graduate from college. This leads us to great teamwork. Our kids obviously learn that they have to work together. Once they shove off from the dock, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you come from in New York City. It doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are. It doesn't matter whether you actually like one another or not. What matters is you are all pulling together. You are all working together to balance the boat and to be successful. And that can be applied to life beyond high school, right? In college, working on projects. And we all know at work too. It's so important to be able to work as a team. Our kids learn that at Row New York and take it with them through their lives. Also physical fitness, right? Our kids, so many of them start off, they just aren't active. So at Row New York, of course, they're getting active in the boats, they're training, they're getting fit, and they're also learning about taking care of themselves, making good choices in terms of their nutrition and their daily lifestyle habits. And that too carries with them throughout their lives and into their families. We'll hear kids all the time saying, I told my mom I shouldn't eat cereal every morning, so now we're making choices and eating, bananas and eggs for breakfast. These little things go a long way. So what's next for Row New York? We have so many kids on our waiting list every fall in our Manhattan program. So we're in the midst of designing a 15,000 square foot boathouse that will live on the Harlem River. The bottom floor will be for rowing and the top floor will be for academic support. What we're most excited about in this project is that we'll be able to serve 5 times as many young people in our after-school program in Manhattan. But also, this is the only community boathouse in the nation whose primary focus is on serving a low-income community. It's not a piece of what we do, it is the priority at Row New York, and we're very proud of that fact. So last but not least, I always say that our kids communicate Row New York and what it's about much better than I do. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and thank you for your time.
Gives me hope.
It helps me with my confidence.
Teamwork, dedication,
commitment,
patience. Oh, a lot of patience.
It's taught these kids just how rare it is to meet people with the same ambitions.
They get me. I just feel different when I come here. I'm usually shy in school and I don't really talk, but here I just feel so open. I'm gonna miss everybody, honestly. Wow. It's like my second home.
It's a family. It's like a family.
It's like a family right there.
You have to become supernatural to row and to take pride in calloused hands and
blisters.
Blisters.
Wow. And blisters.
all those early mornings you wake up and wish you could stay in bed. All those grueling erg workouts you anticipate with a knot in your stomach. All those strokes.
Thank you.